Well, my grapes in plastic bottles over there. It's about time to put them in a pot of soil. This is my own potting mix that I make up. You've seen video on it if you watch my channel very long. I put a little bit of lime in a, like 2 tablespoons of 10-10-10 and 2 tablespoons of lime. And I am going to have to incorporate this all in this soil, which I will do more of. And then these are the pots I'm going to put them in. And whenever you transplant something like this, they go through a shock. And when they go through a shock, you don't want them in bright sunlight. And I'm going to take a pair of snips and try to cut these off so that this comes out pretty easy. It's a little dry at the bottom. I haven't watered them and it hasn't rained that much. And that will allow the roots to stay fixed to the soil. I hope. They're still a little wet, but they've got to be moved. And all I will do is clip this off at the bottom, split the cup in numerous places, and maybe cut it off at the bottom. Try to lift this whole thing as roots and all into those pots. And then I will keep them in the shade for a few days where they won't get any sun, maybe a week, just to let them transition and let the roots start to extend into this new soil. Once the roots have extended, then you can slowly bring them in to more sunlight. And after maybe 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, you can have them in full sun, because grapes like full sun. Well, I've got pots, 6 pots mixed up. Taken both hands and spread them apart. And when I get the plant over here, if it's got a bigger base, I'll open this hole up bigger. And if it's good enough and you want to put them in this soil just above, maybe 2-3 inches above where the roots come out. Because see, normally you plant it the way it's been planted in the soil or in a pot that you bought at a nursery, but since you're doing this on your own, you're pretty much going to put it at about the same level as it is in those drink bottles. Yeah, it's time to cut them off. We have garden scissors. We bought 2 pair of these scissors. They are fairly nice, sharp scissors. And to keep them from getting mixed up, we just have 1 pair that we keep in the boathouse close to the garden. And then we have to have shears just to cut this off. And so I would just cut this off flush right there. I will later come back and trim this up because I don't want this to sprout. And you want to cut this first, because if you cut the rope that's holding the bottles up, it could fall over and tear some of these roots. And since this bottle is supported with those roots by this, if you cut it loose right there, it isn't going anywhere. And then I would take my scissors. Now normally these are tied to the bottle like that, so I could just cut the thing. But this one is also holding this one up. So I'm going to have to do it just a little different. So all I have to do is, I'm working on this bottle, make sure I got the right one. And I couldn't just get the blade closest to the stem. Cut that off. Now it's supported. Now when I cut that nylon, I can take it with me. And since I only have a few hands, I'm going to try to hold this. And so you've got the plant without doing any damage. Now that I've got the pot over here, I can tell where the roots are. Now the base of that is going to be about like that because it's a cap there on it, you know. So I can plant this all the way down almost to the bottom. Once I cut the 2 inches or so off the bottom of that bottle and pull that plant out, it will reach the bottom and it will be planted just about the same spot. Well, you can use a razor blade knife to cut these things open with. Water bottles, you could use any kind of snips to cut off the stem. And you can use sheet metal to cut the bottles off. It's really thick from here on, and it's sort of dangerous to try to cut that because the force that you'd use with the razor blade, if it ever slipped, it would go completely to the bone on your hand. Now this has a fair amount of little root in it. Not everyone made it, but enough made it to make it work. And with that little bit of root, there's some right in here and some right there, but this soil might fall apart when you take it out of here, and I need 2 hands to do it, so I'm going to cut the camera off. And I cut that little piece off the stem and another little piece so that the rooted area would be about soil level when I bring the soil up. And to bring the soil up to about right there, just so all this, it's rooted right here the biggest and at the next one. And then you'll firm it down and water it in. And remember to put it in a place that's not in full sunlight. In the shade, it'll get enough light, but not direct sunlight. That's at the level that I told you it would be. I compress this really firm with my fingers. I have these bamboo shoots. You can buy them at the big box stores. I know Home Depot has them in packages of 6 or 8. And I cut it over with my pruners, stuck it into the soil. It's fairly strong. It's holding up a very thin little cane. And I tied it very loosely there and very loosely there. And that is so when the wind blows, this won't move very far and could possibly break off the roots. Now we're going to take this over to a shady place that doesn't get a whole lot of sun. And we will water it in. Now we have plenty of leaves on this little piece, and we don't need that one touching the soil, so I'll clip it off. It's anal retentive, but you don't need one of these. Are the things they grip on and hold on to things. They're tendrils, and you don't need a brown one that's dried up because it wouldn't function. Now all I have to do is do the rest. And this one in the larger liter size bottle has a really nice amount of roots. And I dug down in there with my hand, just like a heavy piece of equipment. Reach down with fingers and just grab a bunch and put it over here and to get about the approximate size hole. Now all I have to do is clip off that main stem and put it in there. And to release the pressure on it, I just split it from the top to the bottom. And here's the third one done, and it's sending out a new cane there too. And it's about 2 feet tall. Well, here's all 6 of them done. Now these 5 here, not counting this one, were done the same day I did the second video on rooting a live cane, where the first video was on a dead cane that I didn't know was dead. Now this one I had rooted earlier than I did these 5, and it doesn't have very much root on it. So I marked it, hopefully you can see it, with a red mark and a black mark and put a number 1 under it. Now I'm not going to leave this out in the sun because it doesn't have enough root to supply moisture in the leaves when they transpire their moisture due to the sunlight and growth. In fact, I'm going to put that in my workshop and just let it try to extend the roots that it's got. And I don't really have a lot of hope for that one making it. The others, I don't have any worry that they won't make it. Now right now, I am going to do a little judicial pruning on this. Since it doesn't have a whole lot of roots, I'm taking off all this new growth so it doesn't have to supply moisture to that much leaves. Now mark the growth height on each one of these so I can see if those roots are happy and are expanding. Plus I can look back at this video because those leaves should be getting bigger.